Hello, and welcome to today's version of Leaders Communicate Clearly. My wonderful guest speaker today is Nina Perez. Now, Nina can be known as a connection expert. She helps people create more desirable conversations, enjoy deeper relationships through the teachings of appreciative inquiry. That's right, let's inquire appreciatively. She goes with shy professionals to C-level executives. C-level executives, they're shy sometimes too. And Nina teaches people how to win in communications with others. Now, in a brief conversation with Nina, she sort of wants to talk about connected ways of being for better conversations. So, Nina, let me ask you a question. What exactly is a connected way of being for a better conversation? And why are you passionate about it? And why should we even pay attention about it?
No, thank you. Thank you, Daniel, for having me here. That's a great question. And first, I want to acknowledge everybody watching this because you are in the right place to learn how to expand new levels of communication. And communication is really about getting through to people, not just giving information. And so this ways of being is about what else are you doing besides the speaking and the words that are coming out of your mouth?
Right.
And we know, a lot of us know that that's just 7% of the communication, but 93% is your way of being, your body language, your tone of voice, how you inflex, how you connect with the person. And so I think that is such a big part of communication that is sometimes overlooked. So how we are being with our body language, with our tone of voice, with our pace, and that will help get that communication to come through.
Okay, so the people that come onto you as a clients, they reach out to you for a reason. Obviously, they discover you and they think that, well, Nina's going to help me get my conversational skills going. So what kind of process or plan of action do you take them through? Is there like a system, or can you just give us
Yeah.
a review of somebody you've worked with before?
Yeah, so the first thing we do is we always start with body language because this is the kind of like the first thing people will absorb from talking with you. And so I coach my C-level executives to think about three things. First of all, your hands. You want to show your hands, even in the Zooms and when you're doing a virtual summit like this or anything like that. You want to show your hands because that communicates to people that you're a friend, not a foe. If you're hiding the hands, our limbic brain's like, oh, is there a knife back there? So you want to show your hands and you want to actually open them up. And instead of this kind of thing, you to this, more like, I'm here, I need help, or I need your opinions, I need your ideas. And this open hand gestures there, that's very interesting. It's inviting, it's giving you a sign that you are open. So hands are so important, as well as, of course, eye contact and smiling. I always teach my clients to smile while they're speaking because it actually relaxes the other person on the other side. And these are easy things. Well, you got to practice them a little bit, but they're not expensive things. It's a cheap way to become a better communicator. What you do with your hands, what do you do with your face, your smile, your eye contact, and then your open body. You want to have shoulders relaxed and back. A lot of times people are like, okay, you guys, we're going to talk about this. And they're like, here, like, or sometimes we're like, what's going on? And what we need to solve this problem. And we have this feeling of closing up. And that, even if you say the nicest things, if your arms are like this, it's going to not communicate what you're saying. It's going to be contradictory. People are going to be like, I don't know if I can trust this person.
Okay.
So body language creates trust. You want to have an open body language. You want to show your hands, your eye contact, your smile. And the last one that I would say is overlooked as well is leaning in to speak to someone, obviously not into their personal space, but when you have a standoffish leaning back kind of, okay, we need to look at this report, versus when you're engaged, when you're really engaged with someone, you do lean in. This is just natural. And so when you're thinking, I need to get this important communication across, I want to lean in and share how important it is to me and how important it is that we work together. So your body language is the first place that I take my clients to.
So you sounds like you're speaking with number one is basically the visual representation, what people are actually seeing of you. Okay, so
yeah,
that's number one.
And that sometimes speaks louder than your words.
Right. Okay.
As we know, body language.
Okay.
The second would be Yeah,
Number
the
two.
question. Number two is I coach my clients on their questions, on how they are shifting the conversations because questions are fateful. This is one of the principles of AI, appreciative inquiry, that the question we ask colors everything that comes after what we say, what we look at. So if I come to someone and I say, like, what's the problem? Well, now we put on glasses that looks for the problem and what is missing and what's broken. But if I come and I say, well, what do you like about what's happening and what would you like more of? You can put what's missing into what you would like more of. And when you're saying what you would like more of, you're actually expanding to, well, this is what excellence would look like. This is what a vision would look like. So when you're not focused on the problem that gets you a little bit tunnel vision, this is what's going wrong. You're focusing on what we want more, what excellent looks like. So now you're going this way. And so the questions are fateful and they direct our focus. And so I train all of my coaches on some great questions. And I can share some with you if you'd like.
Yes, absolutely. That would be good because I think we need to take notes on this, folks. Hint, hint. Okay. So what are these questions?
So a good question would be like, what's working well? Or what have you noticed is the best practice? Sometimes there was a healthcare clinic and it was going through transition and they were not doing well. And so everybody was ornery about going to the meetings, So they had a new head of the department and the head of the department went and sent an email and said, everybody, I want you to go out there and look for stories of where we are doing well, where there's good customer service, because their customer service rating was low. So
Right.
the thought is nobody is getting good customer service here in our clinic. But she asked, could you go out there and find stories of good customer service that we are doing? And guess what? Of course, there's always a story here that even if you have 10 bad examples, you will have one good one. And so they harvested these stories. But what was happening is that the staff was so excited to go out there and look, okay, where are we doing well? Where are we excelling? What's working? And they came back to this meeting super excited, inspired. The energy was different. And all that had to happen was just a question, a focus shift. And the focus was, what is working well? What are we doing well? And then what they did after that is they doubled down on that. They try to replicate the best practices. So what are we doing well? What is working? That's a great question. Another one is, what do we want more of? We talked about. But when you ask that, asking what is the impact of getting what we want, of getting the more that we want of excellence? What would be the impact? So here we are, we have this tough conversation. Maybe we're going through a difficult moment. Well, what do we want more of? We want this. Well, what would happen if we did get that? How would we change and evolve? What would need to be in place if we got 100 new clients, or if we actually sold out the event? What would be the impact? And then what you're doing there is you're connecting people to a higher vision, more purpose, and that creates innovation, creativity, ideas. People love to connect to something bigger and they want to make an impact and they want to know that what they're doing matters and it's significant. And so when you ask that question, what's the impact? I was doing another thing I do is dance lessons, and I talk about connection and conversations there. But I asked the people in my corporate class, why is it important that you dance for the world? And so they're taking this dance class thinking, oh, why is it important for the world that we do this dance class? And, they're a company. And so what they're putting out there matters. If they're happy and their employees are well mentally, well, they can do a better impact in their company and their innovation. And so it's important for them. And so that question came, the question is, why is this important to the world that I do what I do?
So it sounds like what you're saying there is, I think they said it somewhere, whatever we focus on is what we see. And if we're focusing on what the problem is, that's all we're seeing is problems. But if we're focusing on what the solution or what the outcome could be or what is good going on, then we will see those things and we can build on them, right?
Exactly. We want to double down on what's going well. If you have been failing in certain marketing initiatives or in certain things like that, well, there is a little bit of silver lining in everything. It could be a learning. We've learned this. Okay, how do we double down on this learning? So you do want to replicate the things that are going well. And sometimes when we ask questions that are negative, let's say, or not appreciative, we tend to color that everything is wrong,
Right.
right? We go global,
Everything.
and we want to not do that. Yeah, we want to go global in the positive, and we want to go specific in the negative.
Okay, so you said that no matter how bad something might appear to be, there's a sliver somewhere in there of something good, somewhere's hiding in there. Have you ever come up with somebody that couldn't find it?
It's interesting. If that is the case, what I would say is that your rapport with that connection with that person is not there yet, and you want to work on that first.
Okay.
So if you have someone that no matter what you say, they're like, nope, nope, they continue criticizing, or they deflect, or they're contrary all the time. What you want to do is think about, okay, how can I connect with this person's heart and find common ground?
Okay.
You know, John Maxwell says you need to find the heart before you ask for their hand. And so when I have someone that cannot find the positive and cannot come with me with the questions I'm asking, it's because that relationship is not deep enough, or it's not connected enough. And so I need to look back at, okay, what is the common ground between us, or it could be what we want together. So let's say you have an employee that's like, everything in this company is late and the logistics is late. And I ask them things like, well, what do you like about the industry? Or, I try to find, why did you get into this industry? Everything's wrong. What got you into it? What's their story? And then they'll be like, well, I like, let's say if it's a landscaping company, I like being outdoors and so on. And then you're like, oh, outdoors, and you can find a common ground. And when you find the common ground, guess what? You've already shifted them. So it's no longer everything negative. Now they're like, this is what I liked about this industry. And when you have that little shift where you find the common ground between you, the people's heart softens. If there's like a wall, it tends to, open up a little bit. And then I'm like, you know what, you're right. I do actually, if I think about it, this is what needs working, or this is what I can contribute. So it's usually, if you cannot turn a person around, it's because that connection needs a little bit of work. And I talk about this all the time. One of the things I do is help people become the caring CEO. And I say, you really got to bond with your people. They need to know that you care. They're not going to care about your job, about this initiative, this project, if they don't think that you care about them.
That's true. So let me ask you, when you work with a client like that, or an individual, and you see that shift, do you also see a physical shift? You hear the mental shift, but I'm venturing to say you also see a physical shift in the face, the posture, and everything in that being of that person. That's what we're talking about, being, right?
Exactly. Yes. And it starts in the heart and the mind of the leaders. So here we are talking about how leaders communicate clearly. You have to start with yourself. You need to be thinking about, what kind of leader do I want to be, and how do I want to be perceived, and how do I want to come across? And it comes from connecting yourself to your values. Do you really care? Then that needs to show in everything, in your communication on email. You need to, have a hello team. Hey, everybody, I know you're working hard, acknowledging. Actually, this brings me to one of the tips I give my CEOs is to do the 30-second rule, which is all about, this is actually one from John Maxwell. I love him. And he talked about the 30-second rule, which is to acknowledge, a compliment, or give some affirmative energy to whoever you're talking to within the first 30 seconds.
Okay.
So you come into the conversation and you look for, what can I say about this person? Like, what do I like about them, their characteristics, their character, or what have they done well lately that I want to acknowledge them for? Or what are they working on that they might be a little bit discouraged and I want to encourage them? And if you do that with everyone, people are they feel that, of course, has to be genuine. So you can't be like, nice talk, if you don't like it, or like, you really need to come from a place of really caring, observing, and looking at the other person like they're a 10, and they are valuable. And so you want to showcase that.
So you're talking about some skills that a lot of people might not have. They might not be comfortable with having this conversation or opening themselves up. So how would we go about getting that process started? How can we get them moving in that direction without fear, so that way they can become the person they deep down inside probably really want to be?
Yeah. A lot of leaders are afraid that being vulnerable is going to make them be perceived as weak. And it's actually the opposite effect.
Okay.
The more you show, like, I have a CEO, and he was having a hard time planning, because he works in a certain industry where the trades, he's kind of at the beck and call of the trades. He has to wait till those come in. And he had a lot on his shoulders, and his people constantly were complaining about there's no planning in the schedule. We don't know what's happening, and that makes us feel really uncertain. And all I said was, you need to include everybody in what is happening. So let them know this person, I'm waiting for this, and I'm waiting for that. And if this happens, this happens. And he was like, it was just a big load off his shoulders so that others could understand why it was so difficult to schedule a whole week. And when he included everybody else in this vulnerable thing about, I don't know what's happening the next 2 days, that's why I can't schedule you, then everybody was like, oh, okay, it makes sense. And it just removed that tension. And so if you are afraid, I would start with the simple things. I would start with sharing what you feel you can share, that just a little bit of inclusion, and also, if you're not used to being like you're a quiet person, a lot of CEOs are more like, I don't say much, I just do. Then you want to start simple and small. You might do an extra thank you, an extra email saying, thank you for that thing you did yesterday. And slowly you start opening up, and you'll notice, people will notice the results, how the other people react. And then you'll want to open up more and more, because what we want is good results.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
So yeah, that kind of counters the fear.
So
Um,
you're talking about getting this C-level executive to open up. Do you give them I mean, it's one thing to sit here and talk to the person and say, here's what can be done. This is something that would probably benefit you if you did it. But is there any like technique or tactic you give them? Why don't you do this? I mean, you said, okay, pick the little thing, but besides that, is that how you work? I mean, that's what I'm trying to find out. Do you just talk to them, or you say, write this, get a journal and start journaling, or whatever? I mean, how do you pull that off?
yeah. So I do one-on-one consulting, and every person is different, but there's a commonalities in all of them. I
Mhm.
always start with like how they're communicating when they're around in front of their people.
Right.
So in person, what are you doing with your body language? And I explain certain things, that, like I said in the beginning, if you're like this or like this creates a closure. And when you're like this, open up and relaxed, it creates a different feeling. When I explain to CEOs like the impact of that, and how that affects the bottom line, because it does, like, employees who are committed versus employees who are just compliant are two different employees. Employees
Right.
who are compliant
Well, that's true.
will only do so much, but employees who are committed and know that the company cares for them, they care for the company, they will go above and beyond. They will do things that other employees would never do because they don't have that bond. So these little things is how you start to create the bond. So the smart CEOs immediately pick it up, but body language is first. Then I look at all kinds of communication. So how do you do your emails, your memos? How do you run your meetings? And then we talk about how do we do small changes, like the questions that we ask in the meeting. And I start simple. You change one question in the beginning of the meeting. And so you start saying, okay, I know we have a big meeting ahead, but let's go over just the week. What went well this week? Who wants to start? And you do a round robin. And it's amazing how if you change the first 2 minutes of a meeting, that whole meeting will be changed. Actually, a lot of times the first 2 minutes of the meeting kind of creates the tone for the whole meeting. And so if we start with, oh, this is going wrong, we need to talk about, then that whole meeting kind of goes downhill. But if you start differently with more of an uplifting or a creative question in the beginning of the meeting, something that will release tension, something that will create community or connection, your whole meeting will change, ideas and creativity will happen and open up. Because there's so much data about this, the positive psychology, they talk about when you are in a great state of mind, you broaden and build your faculties of creativity and innovation and ideas and stuff, all that happens. But if you're in a closed state of mind or in a negative state of mind, you actually are less resilient. You're not as smart, and all these things go away. So I do a lot of consulting with companies, and I will come in and when we look at how do we change the culture, what do we start with? And usually the CEO, the top, has to start, because leaders need to model. They need to show by example what they're doing, and they need to change first, and then everybody else will be on board and believe it. But nobody wants to do something that they know that their leader doesn't do.
Well, that's true. I mean, yeah, you have to lead by example. And if you're just saying, do this because I told you to do this, people will understand it. They'll know that. That's probably the culture of the organization. And that's why they're asking for your help anyway, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And nowadays, retention is such a big problem. A lot of companies are losing employees and stuff, and a lot of companies, a lot of industries have a shortage of employees or talent, and so retention has become a big deal.
So that's like, I'm sure it happens north and south of the border here, is what they called it, the Great Resignation, or whatever it is that the term is this week. But that's still ongoing, and we're trying to, when I say we, generally, people in business are trying to figure out how to bring that back around, so that way we have quality employees. And so what I think I hear you saying, in order to get that quality employee, you have to up-level your quality as the leader,
Exactly.
and that way you will
Yeah.
attract them, right?
Yeah, and you can actually even, like say, build your employees, because people will transform and change when the environment changes, and the
Right.
environment changes usually by the leader. How the leader acts is how everybody follows and acts the same way. So if the leader is rude or doesn't connect, or doesn't have an open door policy, or doesn't show their face at the office, then you will have more absenteeism, you will have more, shortness in the employees, or lack of patience, because it all comes from the top. However, I have to say a disclaimer: anybody at any level can be a leader and could change the organization from within. So if you have an employee, or if you're an employee and you don't like the way the environment around you is, you need to start working with how you change your conversations. Ask a different question, acknowledge someone, your boss, acknowledge them for whatever, or other people you work with, you start acknowledging them or giving credit, and making that public. That is one of the hacks. I would say we do not hear enough about how well others are doing and how that impacts us. And so if you go and you notice that, Sally over there did this thing for you, and you send an email to Sally's boss or to whoever would appreciate to know, and like, Sally did this, and this is how it impacted me because Sally did this, that creates a different kind of conversation, a different environment. And you don't need to be the CEO to create that. Just anybody could start that.
So this sounds like it floats back to what you were talking about earlier, recognizing the wonders and the good stuff around you, no matter how small they might be. If somebody did something, no matter how minute it was, and you recognize it as being positive, let them know about it, right? Or let somebody make it, even if it's just a general conversation, right? You can just have these conversations with people and talk to them. You don't have to do emails. You can do anything, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if we follow back to the 30-second rule, and there's like a group of 2-3 people, the way I start conversations, even if I'm introducing people, or if I come in, I say, oh, did you hear what Sally did the other day for me? She did this, she did that. And I start the conversation that way. And that's my acknowledging Sally in front of somebody else, which of course is going to make Sally feel wonderful. This other person is going to be like, wow, Sally, look at her different. And then they're all going to see, like, who created that? Oh, this person who just, talked about the positive of this other person. So you will get seen as an uplifter, which, you're talking about somebody else doing well, but you will get the kind of, you will get the limelight as well in a positive way, because you're talking about this.
Well, you'll be seen as a positive person because you're talking about positive things. That's what it is. I love it. That's really great, because and a lot of us don't think about that. I know personally, I don't always think about that. We all have that little thing talking to us inside of our brain, and it's not always positive. So we have to work with that little critter in there. So Nina, we could probably go on for hours having this conversation about how to do certain things. And I'd love to hear your stories about some of these, especially because I bet you have some wonderful ones, but we don't have time. So tell me, Nina, I know somebody is listening to this and they want to reach out to you. How can they do that?
Oh, very simple. Just ninaperez.ca, because I'm in Canada, but I do travel and I do consult with anywhere, with anybody who would like to work with me. And you can reach out to me in social media. My handles are Connect with Nina. And it's kind of like a play on words, because really what I'm going to teach you is how to connect.
Okay.
So I will how to connect with others, and by connecting with me, you'll learn that. And I really enjoy this topic because I feel that we are in a shift in the world. Through the pandemic, we realized how much connection matters to us
Really
and how important it is. And now together more than ever. So we need commitment between our employees, our friends, or whoever is around us. And we want to create that ourselves.
That's true. And I thank you for bringing that up, because a lot of people still don't recognize it, even though it is a fact. You know how it is. A lot of people won't accept the facts, but they'll accept something else somewhere else. So let's we say it often enough, they'll get it. So now
Yes.
I want to learn something else about you that I'm sure nobody knows. I want to know if you're stranded on a desert island, you have no idea when you're going to get rescued. You've already eaten all the coconuts. There's nothing left to eat. And a
Okay.
box of food washes up on shore. It's your favorite food. What's in this box of food?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is an Argentinian thing. It's dulce de leche
Okay.
and bananas. They go really well together. So dulce de leche is this like mix of like caramel spread, and it's unique to Argentina, but Brazilians make it also, Chileans make it. So and I think now it's popular in ice cream. There'll be like dulce de leche ice cream,
Okay.
but you have to try it. It's just delicious. And whenever I buy myself a jar, I'm always with my family. I'm like, this is mine.
This is mine.
And I have
That's it.
a hard time sharing because I love it so much. So yes, dulce de leche.
All right. So we learned something new about you. I think it's fantastic. You have such wonderful energy, and I'm sure that you help your clients fantastically. So Nina, tell us one more time how we're going to get a hold of you.
Yes, my website is my name, Nina, Nina Perez, PEREZ.ca. And yeah, you can find me there.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Well, Nina, I thank you very much for taking your time to come onto the show with me. I really appreciate talking to you now, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the future. And I'll keep you posted about my adventures. All right.
Yes, that's wonderful. And
Okay.
would love any questions. If people have more questions about what we talked about, definitely send them in.
Well, we're
Thank
working
you so
on
much.
making that happen somehow. We'll figure that out. All right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank
Okay.
you, everybody.
All right, Nina. This is Daniel with Leaders Connect. Leaders communicate clearly, and the wonderful Nina Perez. Till next time, you all be safe.
Bye for now.
Hello there. I'd like to congratulate you and applaud you for being one of the unique individuals who has taken advantage of the Leaders Communicate Clearly Summit. Now, these videos are going to be going away at the end of the week, and you're never going to have access to them again. So I'm offering you the opportunity to do the VIP package, which will give you 1, access to all the videos forever, 2, audible downloads that you can put in your MP3 player and take anywhere with you, jogging or in the car, and 3, transcripts so you can highlight, take notes, use that information and create your own plan of action. Now, this information, if you're trying to get it elsewhere, would cost thousands of dollars. Thousands. This is only going to cost you less than the price of lunch at the airport while waiting for your connecting flight. That's right. For a measly $47, you will have a master's in education on communications and conversational skills. So click that VIP experience button, grab the lifetime access to the videos, the audios, and the transcripts so you can take this information with you at any time and upgrade your communications and leadership skills. I'll see you next time.